From the electric Kool-Aid acid test to the right stuff, Tom Wolfe has consistently helped to reshape journalism in America. The new journalism is what some called it. The new journalism is what legions have tried to copy. But for the past 20 years, it's been Tom Wolfe's journalism that has turned many a head and raised many an eyebrow. One author says Wolfe has brought more new ideas and phrases into the English language than anyone since Noah Webster. Whether it's asking ourselves if we're on the bus or off the bus, or discussing the me generation, Wolfe's impact is hard to miss. We caught up with him recently at UC Davis.
As for the state of America, it depends on who you talk to. I think objectively things are great. We are now in an economic boom that has been going on for more than 40 years. And that money can't buy you love, though.
It's the state of America and its current boom times that has caught Tom Wolfe's imagination of late. He says the new wealth and yuppies are nothing really new.
There are not the inhibitions about spending it that there were in the 60s and there were in the 70s. It was considered really rather outre to be ostentatious in the 60s and the 70s if you were educated and halfway cultivated. That's not true anymore. It's just perfectly okay to kick the gong around. That's part of the state of the nation. I don't object to it. That's fine. I like to see rich people around. The type of person who's now called a yuppie has been with us certainly ever since the Second World War, and was certainly that type of person was always in New York, at least for the 20-odd years that I've been there, and I'm sure in other places. The difference is one's own approach to the perfectly normal instinct for boundless greed and ambition. What has changed is the openness with which people are ambitious and greedy.
Tom Wolfe has been writing about America and Americans, hippies and yuppies, since the early 1960s. Whether they were surfers in the Pump House Gang or drug-soaked psychedelics in electric Kool-Aid acid, Wolfe has had a knack of getting into his characters' heads, as it were, and writing nonfiction from the other person's point of view. Thus, Tom Wolfe's new journalism revolution.
When I started writing nonfiction in a serious way, it was not a serious form. I started writing in Sunday supplements. Sunday supplements was just brain candy, you know. And so there were no standards, no canon. There was nothing to live up to. So this was just like a blank check. You can do whatever you wanted. You could play around, fool around, do all kinds of things. And this leads to freedom of approach. And it's something I've been fighting against, but I find myself, now I'm doing something called a novel, which has a tradition and which has its rules, and Henry James said this, and Joyce said that. And it's hard to keep these things out. It's hard for me to keep these things out of my mind.
Wolfe is finishing that novel called The Bonfire of the Vanities. It's currently running in serial form in Rolling Stone magazine.
Paperback writer.
As for what he's thinking about for his next projects, well, maybe a book about religion, says Wolfe, or maybe something about America's public high schools.
Young people are the only people in the country expected to deal on a face-to-face basis with all of the various problems along the lines of ethnic differences, class differences, all of these things the rest of us talk about and form committees about and make statements about. And only people in high school sort of live. I think that's one subject. Another is the new religions. I'm talking about everything from absolutely new religions like Arica and all of these things are part of what in the space of a few paragraphs I once mentioned as the Third Great Awakening.
Tom Wolfe, a writer with a candy-colored, streamlined style, who has rubbed elbows with the radical chic and the flack catchers. A journalist who continues to tell us about America's wrong stuff as well as its right stuff. He's an American original.
So I tend to be the Pollyanna in all these discussions. I tend to. This has been true ever since the 60s. I don't know what's wrong with me. I tend to see things as being better than certainly my colleagues in the literary world. They love disaster, frankly. They really love it. They loved the war in Vietnam. They thought it was great. It was so bad. They like to embrace the four horsemen: war, pestilence, slavery. Gives you something to do if you're a writer.
Tom Wolfe on The Public Affair.